I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. Hello and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I get the extraordinary honor of introducing you to women that inspire me. I really believe that this is the time of women emerging on the planet, that it is the time for us to bring our gifts, shine our lights, bring our voices. And so by introducing you to these women, I give you tools and wisdom to take your next step into greatness. My guest today is Dr. Carly B. Hudson. I just want to read a little bit about her. As an infant, Dr. Carly suffered a devastating and life-threatening illness. She was left with invisible handicaps, including balance disorders, muscle spasticity, and hearing loss. She had to begin again to learn how her body worked, and so began her path of lifelong learning and healing. The gift of this injury, Dr. Carly has spent her life exploring extraordinary self-care. The impacts are on our mind, our body, and our spirit. She has a fabulous podcast, and now she's dedicating her life to inspiring others to examine what recovery can truly look like when we focus on healthcare versus disease management. Oh, I can't wait to talk about this, Carly. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you are here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I so appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, well, I love your story. I love what you've overcome, and I love your mission. So let's talk a little bit about growing up with these challenges, physical challenges. Talk to me about that.
Well, I was thinking about it, and, the lessons kind of came in two parts. And, the first part was the growing up. And I think one of the biggest blessings and the biggest devastations was that I never knew anything different. I was 7 months old when I had bacterial meningitis, and I never knew what hearing was completely. And I never knew what my body, quote unquote, should be capable of doing: balance, coordination, a brain that just fatigued and lost control. And so I didn't ask for any outs, and not because I didn't know I should. And so I really learned about compensating and about advocating for what I needed so that I could keep up, because not keeping up wasn't an option. My parents taught me early on that because of my hearing loss, I needed to ask to sit at the front of the classroom, which just reinforced the nerd situation. And that I needed to rest, and I needed to not push myself so thoroughly, because if I did, the consequences were big. I would crash my brain. I would be fatigued for days on end. And so self-care has always been a non-negotiable for me. And that's a huge lesson that, as I'm now in my practice and teaching this to people about how to take care of their bodies, learning self-care later in life is so much harder than just knowing it is a way of life, which is absolutely what I think it should be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, what I love, though, is that you came on the planet clearly with an intentionality to grow and to expand. And so not succeeding wasn't an option, and you just kept moving. So that's extraordinary to me. So as you got older, like especially through teens and going into college, how were you managing?
Not well, if I'm being perfectly honest. I mean, those were years when, as my body changed, as my hormones changed, it's a complicated cocktail of how all of these things come together in our physical being. And most of my damage was in my brain and in my central nervous system. I basically had a traumatic brain injury. And so as all of these things changed, my ability to cope got harder and harder. And the amount of rest and recovery it took got more and more. And I dealt with severe clinical depression in my late teens and my early college years. And, I sought care. I learned cognitive behavioral therapy as a way to train and have new skills. And And I started seeking other parts of care like acupuncture and massage and these adjunct therapies, because part of it all became very clear from the beginning is that, our traditional medical system is well stocked and well made for emergency healthcare. I mean, that's what saved my life, going to the emergency room, being treated. I was in the ICU for, I think, a week and a half when I was an infant. It saved my life. But everything after that, everything for the management of chronic disease, I coped well. You're fine. We have nothing to offer you. Maybe some pain medication if it really gets that bad. So that's when I started to look at using other tools to manage and cope. So again, that massage and the adjunct therapies. But it wasn't until I was in grad school and getting my doctorate for chiropractic that I really came up against a very hard edge. It's a really strenuous curriculum. We do about 40 to 60 hours of coursework a week. And then all the studying on top of that, all the virology, immunology, A&P, all the ologies. And I was about halfway through my program, and the stress of it had crashed my brain. And I was losing control of the left side of my body. I developed something called apraxia, which is I can think I'm going to move my arm, and my arm says, think again, I do what I want. And so that doesn't work great for adjusting, for doing a physical form of care. And I started having a condition called aphasia, where, again, you think of word, you think a sentence, and if anything came out of my mouth, it certainly wasn't the word I was thinking of. And I knew I was in trouble, especially because I put so much time and effort into this career. And I went to my school looking for accommodations, and that was the first time in my life. I was 28 years old. I was thinking about how I was afraid of walking up and down stairs without falling. And if I'm 28 now, who am I going to be in 20 years? What kind of devices am I going to use for movement? Where is my life headed? If I'm going to be a mother, I hear that's stressful too. If I can't handle this, how can I put that on top of it? I needed help. And they sent me to a functional neurologist. And it was the first doctor that I'd ever gone to, the first practitioner I'd ever gone to that said, yes, I can write you a note for your accommodations, but I can also fix you. I know what's going on. And the power of looking at the lens through functional care, through understanding all of the systems of your body and how they talk to each other and how it's really possible to heal when you get down to that level, was liberating. And I just started sobbing in his office, and he was a very stoic man. So that was awkward for everyone. And suddenly I wasn't coping anymore. And I was healing. And I was 29 years old. I did my first treatment with him. And since then, I've added myofascial release. I've continued acupuncture. I do chiropractic. I do yoga. I've changed nutrition and worked with all of these different therapies. It's not one silver bullet that fixes anything. It's understanding your body and meeting it where it's at. And now, 7 years later, I have no balance and coordination issues. I can control both sides of my body, and I can hear it 92% in both ears.
Incredible. So you are a doctor of what?
Chiropractic.
But you also support functional health.
Exactly. And that is what chiropractic is at its basis. It is a full doctorate education in all of the same mannerisms and classes of a medical doctor. All of the same number of class hours. We don't have the same hospital residency, but our focus shifts to how do these systems talk together and how can we support the whole body to heal?
Yeah. Well, awesome. And what I love about this is that I'm sure that there are people listening to this who have their own physical diagnoses and issues. And if you can get support and move to a place of health, you're such an inspiration for people to know possibility.
Thank you. And I do feel like, the story, it's a good story. It was a lot of work, this story. And I don't ever want to show up in anyone's feed or anyone's world as this great example of I can do it, why can't you?
Right.
we've all have our journeys. But what I want to come away from this story is, in real essence, there's nothing terribly remarkable about me. And there's nothing terribly remarkable about my story. I was hurt. I needed to heal. And I found the support to do so. And what that taught me is, if you're hurt and you need to heal, there is the support to do so. And it might look different for you. And it will require radical self-love and non-negotiable care for your health. But the tools are there.
Yeah. But I think you've left out one little thing. You have to say yes.
Yes. Yes.
because he could have said that to you and you'd have been like, I don't know,
Yeah.
So if you want to be healthy, if you want to shift, you have to agree and be willing. So I just think that it is so awesome. So today, tell us about your life today. I know you have this practice, but tell us about that. And then tell us about your life. Are you married? Do you have a child? How's life?
Got it all. Life today is amazing. And I think about that little girl who felt so broken and alone. I have a beautiful private practice in Denver, Colorado. I see chiropractic patients of all ages, all abilities, all inquiries. And my goal is to get you off my table. It's a terrible business model, but it's the only way I feel about health. And it's to teach you about your body so that you understand why chronic pain keeps showing up at your door, and to empower this knowledge that it doesn't have to, because you have the tools to fix it and change it. But also, you have to say yes and you have to do the work. I definitely hold people to that.
Yeah, but I want you to know, I have the same kind of thought pattern that you do. I tell clients my job is to get you not to need me. So I totally get that.
I know it's the only way I feel like to really heal authentically, because anything beyond that is disease management. Yes. If you need someone to keep coming back year after year to get a refill on a prescription or have the same old thing done all the time, you're managing disease. But if you're with them along the process of what you're healing from and how you're changing, and I'll keep reminding you what you need to do, now we're talking about health and healing.
Love it. So I want to know how do you manage, knowing, what your body has been through, how do you manage a practice, a full-time practice, and the balance and harmony in your life?
I ask for help. I mean, the whole tired trope of I don't know how she does it and does it alone, that puts way too much pressure on thinking that we need to be the backbone of everything. I have an incredible husband. We've been together, I don't know, I have to do math now, 16, 17 years. We met when we were 18. But he is the kind of man and partner who shows up and holds his half of any bargain within our family together. And so together we have created this incredible little girl. She's 4.5 years old, my darling Matilda, and she is a handful. And we have taken turns over her lifetime being the parent who has the job that can be flexible for the sick days and the snow days and the appointments. And he did it for a while and I do it for a while. We work together. And my beautiful extended family is in Colorado as well. And we lean on them, and we lean on our community of neighbors. And I ask for help within my practice. And when it comes down to it, I rest. I do yoga. I have sacred yoga time every week. I feed myself well. I have a bedtime and go to bed by 9:00 because I need those 8 hours. And while it feels like perhaps on the outset of listening in that you give up so much, sleeping those 8 hours a night and eating the way you need to eat and taking that time for exercise and movement, what it allows me to do and allows me to give back to my patients and my family and my community is tenfold than if I were trying to drag myself over the coals of exhaustion just to prove I could. You get so much more for your time.
Yeah, well, you're talking about radical self-care here. I mean, you're really talking about the fact that you are putting yourself first, your health and well-being first, and then you get to be in service to your family, to your patients, I mean, that to me is, it's a foundation of what I teach and how I work with people, because the thing is, it's like, if you don't care for you,
Mm-hmm.
cannot care for others.
And it's really the only way. I don't see any other way around it, truly. And again, that comes from never knowing anything different. If I didn't sleep, I crashed, and I still have stressors in my life as I continue to heal. When I got my hearing back, this is new since the holidays of 2020, where my ears opened up and I could hear, and all of that auditory stimulus was so much that my poor little brain couldn't handle it. And I would come home, and every night at dinner, from the stimulation of getting through my day, I would be comatose. I could not talk to my family. I couldn't emotionally engage with my family. I was not there. And I think about how many people push themselves through the day so much that then they crash in front of the TV and are comatose. And what are they giving and how are they participating? Again, I'm not unique. I'm not special. I've just got a really cool diagnosis to go with mine. When we do that radical self-care, it's not even just so that we can then be in service to other people. It's that then we can be in community. And that community takes care of each other. And I can take care of my community as much as they take care of me. And that is just the best feeling.
Totally. Well, I think community is a healing salve.
It is.
I think it creates a container where you feel safe and nurtured and supported, and you can also give. So, yeah, I mean, you're very young to have learned all of this, and it's very cool to What do you think women struggle with the most in terms of caring for themselves?
Honestly, what I hear over and over again are excuses that sound a lot like I don't deserve it. Mm-hmm. When I am done taking care of, when I have raised my children, fed my family, completed my job, then. And we learn too late. And I do know that I've learned this quite early, and I certainly had some big lessons to teach it. But we learn too late that you can have both. Because again, when we think about it's a shift, I think, a cognitive dissonance to go from I am here in service to my partner, my children, my job, my community, versus I am part of. Yeah. And when you can change that language to I am part of, now you can center it around what you need to. Because so often it's that dichotomy of I am selfish if I take care of me, because then I'm not taking care of you. And that is my job and what I've been raised for. And when I have women in my office and they're suffering from chronic pain, the obvious question is, well, can you do all those things? Can you do all those things when your back goes out and it hurts too much to walk and you can't lift anything more than 10 pounds and your elbows that are screaming at you? You can't.
Right.
That is your neon sign telling you not to, and to learn another way, to change the I deserve and get rid of the until then.
Yeah. I love that. I deserve, I'm worthy, I matter. I mean, all of those things. And I think, I've talked a lot about the fact that women were property until the early 1900s. And so we've been enculturated to put everything and everyone before us. But without this being in health, this body temple, our frequency can't manage everything.
Yeah, like do you want to give from just the scraps that are barely left over, or do you want to be part of this bountiful feast that you can share and take part in yourself? Because that's the beauty of community. I still had my family when my brain was crashed and I felt comatose. My family still took care of me, and I still had to take care of me, but I had nothing to give back to them. And I know that we're just talking about that feeling of being in service, but it's not because I owed them anything. Right. It's because I loved them and I wanted to participate. And before I could even participate, I had to go and sleep, and I had to rest, and I had to let my brain heal, and I had to let them take care of me while I did that. And now I'm back.
Amen. I'm right here with you. Well, you're extraordinary, and I'm so honored to have conversation with you and to see what you're doing. I want you to tell people how they can get in touch with you. I know you're in Denver, and I know you're not bilocating, but tell people how to find you. Tell people how to find your podcast.
Yes, thank you. If you are in Denver, I'm in South Denver, and my chiropractic practice is Healing Ground Chiropractic Care, because we provide the ground for healing. And from that became a desire to create a movement. and to change the way we think about healing and change the way we think about healthcare, resource you with all of the different modalities and professions and inspiring stories and ways to smash the system that doesn't serve us. And so I made a podcast because I can't stop talking. And that is the Healing Ground Movement. So that you can find online, healinggroundmovement.com. We are on all of your streaming platforms and YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, and soon coming to Pinterest. Just look for Healing Ground Movement, and healinggroundchiropracticcare.com. If you happen to be local, I'd love to meet you in person.
Oh, awesome. Well, I just think you're doing extraordinary work.
Thank you. Thanks.
I ask people the same last question. What is the one thing, this show is called Women Awakening. Mm-hmm. What is the one thing you think women need to know about the importance of awakening?
That it is a lightning rod. It requires all the respect and attention and awareness of safety around what it is to take on this energy and to take on this mission. But it lights up you and all of your life in a way that you can't imagine. So living in a world of good enough, and this is how I was indoctrinated and trained to be, that's fine. It's got limits. And if you like the limits, that's fine. But the awakening is so much more than you can imagine. And it is so worth the risk.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Carly, thank you. I celebrate and honor you and the work that you're doing. And I know you're having an impact probably beyond even what you know in this moment. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Cynthia, and letting me join in your network.
So ladies, we do these podcasts every week. You get to meet wise women who've overcome a lot in their lives, who are dedicated and committed to being change makers. And they are just mirroring back to you possibility, because you are an original. You are powerful. You are dynamic. There's no one else like you. You are unrepeatable. So I just want you to know that this is an opportunity for you to step forward, to do whatever it is that's calling you, and know that there are resources everywhere to help you move to that next level. I'm grateful to be with you. Please follow us, Spotify, iTunes, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. Follow us and meet extraordinary women. Many blessings, and I will see you next time.